We may have a major AI bubble about to burst. Your jobs, your retirement fund, your 401k, it all could be built into this house of cards. Bloomberg recently released this chart of how money is passing forth between these big tech companies. In today's video, we're going to explain the chart. We're going to look through it. We're going to reveal some problems, and we're going to actually look at some of the issues that could pop this bubble at any moment that could impact your 401k, your ability to retire, the valuation in your home. Everything is sitting on a needle's edge. So make sure you stick around to the end so you understand the potential disasters and triggers that could pop this entire thing. And if you're interested in AI and how it impacts your ability to remain relevant, respected, financially free, this is the time to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below on what you think about this chart. Because what we see here in this chart is we see a major hype cycle going on in the AI world. If you turn on CNBC for just a moment, everyone's going to be talking about AI. Specifically, they're going to be talking about the Magnificent Seven: Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Tesla, Meta. Guys, the Magnificent Seven, 7 companies are responsible for 40% of the value in the S&P 500, almost 40%. It's like 36.5%. So out of 500 companies in the stock market, the S&P 500, 7% or seven companies have almost 40% of the wealth. And is that a problem? Is that a problem? What happens if one of these goes down? Everything tumbles like a house of cards. Now, I want to take a look at this chart that Bloomberg revealed here because I think it's super interesting. There's a lot of arrows pointing around. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through it briefly. So what we see here in these arrows is money flowing from company to company to company. And what we see here is that Nvidia is the central hub at a $4.5 trillion valuation. Now, Nvidia is basically selling picks. Okay, they're building GPUs and hardware in order to empower all of the AI software that is happening. Now, if you've ever heard this before, during a gold rush, don't be the one searching for gold, be the one selling pickaxes. And that is exactly what Nvidia is doing. And you can see tons of money going into Nvidia. Now, the second thing you'll see is OpenAI. OpenAI, that's ChatGPT, boys. And what you're going to see here that is interesting is this kind of circular payment. And I want to really highlight what's happening between Nvidia, OpenAI, and Oracle. So Nvidia says, hey, OpenAI, we're going to invest $100 billion into your company. Okay. I think OpenAI is almost $1 trillion company right now. They should have them at $500 billion. But anyway, Nvidia says, hey, we're going to invest $100 billion into your company. OpenAI turns around and says, hey, we're going to invest $300 billion into cloud computing with Oracle. And then Oracle turns around and says, we're going to send tens of billions over here to Nvidia. So you have this circular investment ring that's happening. You know, the other thing that we're seeing is companies like Microsoft here, Oracle, you know, these companies are they're taking money from OpenAI and then sending it straight back to OpenAI. XAI, getting paid from Nvidia, sending the money back. Figure AI, Mistral, all these companies are getting paid by Nvidia, then investing back into Nvidia. You know, that's like, you know, my wife buying something from Amazon and then returning it and saying that she made money. Does that happen to anyone else? Am I the only one? I love you, babe. Anyway, we're seeing this happen, and Bloomberg has really highlighted this thing, and it's a little bit of a concern here. Now, the one thing that I think is really important to look at here, and what the critics are saying here is that, well, these companies are building all of this infrastructure, but where is the ROI? Where's the return on investment? You know, there's a Deloitte survey that found AI spending this past year has rose 38%, but only 22% of companies reported a positive ROI. That was out of almost 2,000 companies that Deloitte surveyed. MIT study analyzed 300 AI projects and revealed that 95% could not show a return on investment. Now, two things there. Obviously, surveys can be skewed. If you're not surveying, if you know the companies that you're surveying, and you're not surveying companies that you know are seeing a return on investment, well, you could easily skew your numbers. And the other thing that you could say is that, well, if I'm building a house, I'm not going to see a return on investment until the entire house is completed and I can sell the entire house. So, of course, I don't have something huge to show here. And, one of the comments that I see quite frequently, and this is another problem, I'm getting off onto a little bit of tangent, but one of the comments that I see frequently here on the channel is that, well, Mark, it's actually cost a lot of money for companies like OpenAI, XAI, these LLMs are spending more money than they're bringing in from their users because it costs a lot of money to process all these queries. Now, I guess you could say that, well, some of the people that are using OpenAI they're not using as many tokens, so they're not costing as much. But, this is something that we'll probably be covering in more detail in a future video. But this is a big criticism of these LLMs, large language models, that they're actually almost serving as a loss leader. They're trying to absorb customers, and they're not actually generating income from these customers. They're getting income from Nvidia and from from cloud computing. Like they're being propped up. They're being propped up. And the problem, guys, is that can only last so long. I'm not going to call this a Ponzi scheme. You might call it a Ponzi scheme, but you can only keep it going for so long. Now, on the flip side, Google Cloud, so we look at Deloitte, MIT, they're saying that no one's actually making money. Well, Google Cloud reports that out of 1,200 firms that they surveyed, 74% achieved an ROI in 12 months. So again, it's like selective surveying. Salesforce, by the way, I record an entire video. I'll post a link to it up here. Salesforce recently fired 45% of their staff. Why? Or excuse me, their customer service staff. 45% of the customer service staff. Why? Because they're using AI bots. They're using AI chatbots for customer support. By the way, even just this morning, I had a problem with Dollar Shave Club. They sent my razors to the wrong address. And I got on a chat with a customer service AI bot. It was able to solve my problem very quickly, very easily, less than 5 minutes. It knew the questions to ask. It walked me through it. It was great. So I believe that there is some big win. There are some big wins to be had in AI. I recorded an entire video about how AI is taking over the jobs of auto mechanics, or at least making their jobs easier. I'll post a link to it right up here, because I was talking to a buddy of mine who runs a bunch of mechanic shops, and he's using these AI customer service bots to save all kinds of time and money. In fact, his customer service bots, his after hours voice phone answering system, basically someone that picks an AI bot that picks up the phone when you call after hours, it is booking 15% of their service calls now. What if you had a service bot like that could respond to calls 24/7, 365? Guys, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. And by the way, if you have different thoughts, if you disagree with what I'm saying here, feel free to leave a comment below, guys. I learn a lot in the comments, and sometimes you guys question and challenge my ideas, and I'll look into it more deeply. I'll say, you know what? I'm actually doubling down. My idea is correct. In other cases, I might say, you know what? That new evidence that you're showing me, I think that lines up. And in some cases, I might say, well, I think, maybe both of us are halfway there. So anyway, leave comments below. This informs me. It helps me inform you. And we all get better. But guys, let's take a closer look at this potential house of cards, right? So we've talked about what we're kind of seeing in this chart, how the money is flowing. We've talked about what the critics and proponents say, but what are the bigger implications here, guys? And this is the important stuff. So if you're still here, guys, I do a lot of work to prepare these videos. You want to stick around to the end so you get the full meal. As my pastor says, there's a blessing at the end. You guys stick around to the end to get the whole context of what we're seeing here. So there's a few problems here. So the first problem that we see here is that we have an AI ecosystem that is essentially becoming a closed financial loop, right? The same few firms are doing business with each other. OpenAI, Nvidia, Microsoft, Oracle, they're all buying and investing and supplying each other. And we talked about this example. Nvidia invests in OpenAI. OpenAI buys Nvidia chips. OpenAI's valuation increases. Nvidia stock benefits, Nvidia gains more capital to reinvest in OpenAI, and the circle continues. It's a reflexive bubble, guys. And here's the problem. Here's the danger. If one of these nodes, specifically Nvidia, if Nvidia slows its spending or hits some sort of supply wall, maybe they can't create GPUs anymore. Maybe there's a problem with a rare earth mineral deal, or maybe Taiwan, for example, is no longer able to produce microchips for whatever reason that might happen. The whole thing comes tumbling down. Your retirement, your 401k, the entire stock market. We could be looking at a major depression. That is some pretty freaking scary stuff. We're talking breadlines, boys. And by the way, I don't even think of this as fear-mongering. Because history rhymes. History leaves clues. This would not be unprecedented. And it also puts Nvidia in this place where it's too big to fail. So what happens then? Well, the government invests money into Nvidia. And the government is, what, $38 trillion in debt? We're spending more money on our interest payments at the U.S. Treasury. We're spending more money on interest payments than we are on defense spending. That just happened recently too. I don't know, guys. The global financial system is insane. Where do you park your money, guys? Are you just hiding it under your mattress? Don't think that's a good idea. Not with inflation. Are you putting it in Bitcoin, in gold? Are you buying land? What are you doing with your money? Put it in the comments below. I want to hear from you. Not because I want to give you financial advice, but I want to know how you guys are thinking about this. Because, you look dollar for dollar, we're looking at a time where companies are laying off tens of thousands of employees. They're not hiring college graduates. Almost the entire financial system is wrapped up in this circular investment into AI technology. Crazy. So crazy. What do we see here as well? Hardware is the real economic bottleneck. And we talked about this before. Nvidia is the one selling picks and shovels during a gold rush. They are supplying all this hardware. Now, Intel is interesting too. The U.S. government, I recorded a video on this. I'll post a link to it up here. U.S. government just put a huge stake into Intel. I won't go into all the details in this video, but the U.S. government is investing in Intel because what happens if Nvidia goes down? We need AMD. We need Intel. We can't have it all centralized on one company. That's way too much power for one corporation to have. What else do we see here? Well, AI is consolidating into, critics would say we're consolidating into a corporate oligopoly. We have these CEOs that essentially, excuse my French, but these CEOs hold the world by the balls. They have so much, they're responsible for so much financial interest. And listen, you might say in some ways that's a good thing because, well, we have a consolidated plan and they're building out, but man, I don't know. I don't trust politicians. I don't trust big corporations or CEOs. They are typically, human beings in general work towards our own interests. At least with corporations, I know that their interest is profits. But, when you're holding all the world's information and all the financials are flowing through you, man, that is wild. It's kind of a scary situation. In some ways, this also kind of resembles early industrialism here in the United States, where railroads, oil trusts, they're responsible for all the economy. And they own both the production and the distribution. Kind of interesting. Again, history rhymes, guys. History rhymes. If you fail to learn the mistakes of the past, you will make the mistakes in the future. New York City. What else can we learn by this? Massive speculation valuations are potentially dependent on unrealized productivity. And there's this theory about this AI productivity, what we call paradox, where, we've got tons and tons of spending, hundreds of billions of dollars, but we haven't really realized the gains on it yet. Now, listen, I could show you another chart here. Maybe I'll pull it up here in a moment, but, ChatGPT is an incredibly useful tool. I couldn't tell you all the ways that I'm using. Just this weekend, we had a garage sale, and I was using ChatGPT to get valuations on items. Super easy. Just take a picture. I'm doing a garage sale. How much should I sell this for? Boom, done. Negotiation starts, we sell. That's just one example, right? There's dozens and dozens of examples on how I use AI every single day. But if it's costing these monies, I was watching a podcast the other day, this coder was saying, hey, I'm paying $200 a month for my service with OpenAI, but I'm costing them probably $2,000 a month because of how much usage I'm getting out of it. That's a problem for companies like this. Listen, there's always, when we're entering into a new world, it's pretty normal for a company to invest a lot of money in order to gain market share. And then once they've captured all the market, then they can charge whatever they want because they're the only one left. I think there's this idea, this misnomer that we're going to have a bunch of different LLMs. But the issue with LLMs, guys, is once one large language model becomes the winner, it becomes so good, it's going to attract all of the user base. You're not going to be going and using, this is why Chrome and Bing, everyone uses those. These other web surfers, they're just like, who uses them? Like Gmail, everyone uses Gmail. You're not using other email platforms. There's not going to be niche LLMs. I mean, you might have within your organization an AI model that's been trained on your company's first party data, but you're probably going to be using a program like OpenAI because they're taking in so much money. They're investing so much money into their software, into the hardware, and developing off of that. You're just going to connect your API to OpenAI because it is the smartest model out there. So that's what they're building. That is what they're building. This is an entire energy store. And, I covered this in a video a couple of days ago. I'll post a link to it here. These data centers and energy systems are so vital to this entire ecosystem. Just, I think it was, 10 days ago or so, we saw 3 data center projects get turned down by city ordinances. The people in the city didn't want them. I'll post a link to it here. I record this video on these data centers where, the All-In guys, the All-In podcast are talking about it. But if these data centers don't get built, this entire model is going to fail. They need the data centers. They need to grow. They have this vision of where they're going. And I could respect the vision, but it just, when I see a chart like this and all the money getting passed back and forth, it lets me know how fragile this entire thing is. This circular investment creates systematic risk. This symbolic capital is driving the financial capital is this theory. This chart illustrates how AI functions as a belief system that mobilizes trillions of dollars. We're in this huge hype cycle right now. And please believe this hype cycle is I believe the hype cycle is going to trend downward, and then it's going to start to come back up to a normal area of where AI will be. I see in the comments people saying, well, AI and robots are going to be so good at everything, there will never be any work for humans ever. And I don't think that's where we're going. I believe that tens of millions of jobs are going to be replaced by AI and completely displaced, and that's going to be a huge problem because a lot of people are not going to be able to adapt quick enough. That's why I'm making these videos, guys, because I want to highlight what is coming so you can adapt now. You've got a family that relies on you, man. You cannot afford to turn a blind eye to this stuff. Guys, type in the comments what you think. I appreciate you watching the video and subscribing, all that stuff. I want to see your comments below and what you think about this chart because I find it fascinating. I think it's very interesting. I think that it exposes some real potential problems to the cash that is sitting in our banks. Here's another chart. I wanted to record an entire video, but I probably won't. But what we're seeing here in this kind of like complicated spaghetti arm is that people that are using ChatGPT now are using it for a much longer period of time. They purchase it, they keep it, and then they're turning it on, right? So you see that like over time, a lot of people are kind of churning out. People are not churning out now. People are keeping their ChatGPT. We are living in a world now where people love ChatGPT. I don't know about you, man, but I use ChatGPT for almost everything now. It is incredibly powerful. And you might say, Mark, that's going to turn you into a retard. But I'm not the only one that's going the way of Wale and Idiocracy. Powerful time. Powerful time. Guys, again, thanks for watching the video here today. If you are interested in this topic, you definitely need to subscribe. Fresh videos Monday through Saturday. And if you enjoy this video, like yesterday's video, we talked about how Accenture is firing a lot of people. Not Accenture. We're talking about latest firing from America. Can't remember the name of the video offhand. That's how many companies, guys. By the way, I covered, I think, 6 companies last week that are firing thousands of employees. And it's just happening all over the place. So it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time. It's time to buckle down and learn new skills. Yesterday, we talked about Applied Materials. Applied Materials fired 1,400 employees. And there's, is this geographic problems? Is it problems with exports and imports? Is it problems with AI? We're covering it in the video. So check it out there. Boys, I appreciate you watching. I'll see you there. See ya. Peace.